Hey, Cartavius here, just doing a video on the new fusion. New fusion? Man, aren't we still doing a fusion? I guess for those of us doing the Titan path, man, I'm still not even done with that. Got a few days left and then boom, right into the next fusion. So, well, here we go. So, Plarian picking up where they left off. So, they gave us a little break, I feel like, lately, but we went through a period last fall for sure where it was just fusion, Titan, fusion, Titan, fusion, Titan. I mean, you just had to decide, do I just keep going or do I pick something to skip? So anyway, I figure I'll take a look at this fusion and make that decision myself because, man, I just feel like, man, that's been a lot of resources, and you got the coalition event going on at the same time as you're doing the Titan and the fusion, and this Titan launched during the fusion, and yet the fusion's right behind it? I thought we were building in a break. I really did, but must be naive. Anyway, let's take a look at the fusion. Hey, before we do that, though, if you want to get a couple legendaries on a brand new account, you can do that right now. Use my code in the link in the description below, and you can add Narma, the legendary, to your account. You also get the best epic in the game, Uugo, Mausoleum Mage, Anax. Great way to start. 4 steps you got to do. Step 1, log out of Plarian Play on the PC and uninstall. Step 2, click the link in the description, register with a brand new email. Step 3, launch raid, complete the tutorial. Step 4, go to your inbox and get your first champ. And while you're there, enter the code Demon Slayer and you can get the fusion, the last fusion, I guess, Tholan with that as well. And then I did see somewhere actually there is a get Alice. I think you can still get Alice. I saw that on a raid ad, assuming that commercial is just not outdated. So a couple choices there. All right, let's get back into this fusion itself. So interesting champ. It's a void legendary defense champ. So part of me whenever these things come out are like, man, getting a void legendary is really hard. And they've proven that they buff a couple champs a month. They tend to pick a mythical that's just undervalued. Sucks that they put mythicals out that aren't any good, but they do. So they tend to buff those. And then they pick a legendary. So, you know, if they make this guy great someday, we'll get into his kit. Maybe he's great now, but I'm just saying part of my thought process is, man, when they put void legendaries out there, just hard to get. So I usually do them when they come out. They haven't been that many. And sure enough, you know, one of the last ones I know they did a fusion before on, you know, and he was a pair with Constantine and people were like, oh, we'll never get the pair. I thought he was a good champ when he came out and I used him in a lot of content, but then they buffed him even. So they made him a lot better. So at the time, I was glad I went and got them. So you just don't know when they're going to come out and do something with them. So there is the fear of, you know, I'm usually not one that says, oh, they could be used in X content. You know, I think this guy's going to be useful from what I've seen already. And he's void legendary. So certainly that goes into my thought process. But all right, let's take a look at his kit and see how great is he out of the box, you know, not worry about the future buff because I can see that not being too compelling. So he has an interesting A1, attacks one enemy, has a 40% chance of placing, which 60% when booked. He's got 10 books, which is kind of par for the course, I'd say. That's about average for what the champs they put out. Not great, not bad, but I'm sure you guys have plenty of legendary books because they drop like candy in this game, right? And well, here's 10 of them you'd have to use, and he does want the books. He's got 4 cooldowns that he needs, and even bumping the A1 from a 40% to a 60%. I mean, that's impactful. That's a 50% increase. What's he do with that? He's got a 60% chance when booked of placing a block active skills debuff for 2 turns. That can't be resisted when the champ is under a shield buff. You will see that through his kit. He wants a shield. And spoiler alert, he doesn't have one. So you'll have to see what we do with that coming up, but he's going to need friends or gear. Whenever an ally counterattacks, teams up with allies to attack, or instantly activates a skill, also has a 60% chance when booked of placing a blocked active skills debuff for 2 turns on the target enemy. So he's not attacking. It's not like Michinaki or Cardiel who jump in and attack when allies attack. What he's doing is if an ally counterattacks, so somebody hits them and they counter, or they team up in an ally attack. So I'll pick Cardiel again. He does his ally attack and all the allies join in. It reads all those allies have a chance to place the block active skills, or anybody who instantly activates a skill. So champs who have an ability to, like Thor, who's got an ability to boom, use another one of his skills where it's instantly activated. He's got a chance to apply it. So I don't see a cooldown mentioned there because it's an A1, but you are limited by how many attacks, how many counter attacks, and how many ally attacks, and how many instant activations. So it's not like it's going to go off every hour, but you know, if you're bringing an ally attacker or a counter attacker into the fight, whether that's wave-based content, you know, you're using a Valkyrie or a Skull Crusher, or an ally attacker, there's a number of them in the game in wave-based content, you got a chance to put block active skills on all those wave-based enemies. That's an interesting PvP as well. I don't know how many counter attacks and ally attacks are used really in PvP meta these days, but it's an interesting one where he could put block active skills. Now, that's a debuff, so they can't be in Stone Skin in PvP. You know, they can't have block debuffs, they can't cleanse, so there's ways that can fail. I'm not saying that's great, but it's a very interesting A1. No cooldown on that, and if you can find ways to trigger it, you can be applying block after skills. So he doesn't attack, so it's not like it's a weak hit issue that I can see. I don't know if it's based on the attacker. So if the attacker's weak affinity and they weak hit, does it not apply this, or is it going off his ability? He's void, so he's not going to weak hit on his own, so it would look like if it's off his attack, because he's the one adding it, it would just land regardless of the affinity of the attacker. So interesting team dynamic in that A1. 3 different ways in which he can trigger block active skills along with himself. So now that first part says it can't be resisted if the champ's under a shield buff. It doesn't say that on the second part. Is that just poorly worded, or is that actually what it is? Because if it's poorly worded and it's resist on both, you don't need accuracy. Problem is, if you want your allies to all, when they're attacking or counterattacking or activating skills, to place that block active skills, I think you need accuracy now. So if you want to use the cool synergy of the A1, I think you got to put accuracy into the build when you otherwise wouldn't have. So that's disappointing, but maybe that's just trying to make sure it's not broken. I don't think it'd be broken because you have to have counterattacks, ally attacks, or instant activation skills for it to work anyway. It's not like it's working in every attack. So I wish they had just made that the same if he's under shield buff. Those are still not resisted, but we'll have to see when they play test if we learn that that's just not said. But the way it's worded, you need accuracy for that second part. So the A2 on a 3-turn cooldown when booked attacks one enemy. Attack is always critical if this champ's under a shield buff. Once again, shield buffs. This attack also gains a damage boost equal to the value of the shield. So you've got some interesting shield mechanics here. You don't need crit rate in this case. You could put a bunch of crit damage on him then, and I guess it's based on the value of the shield, so the damage actually is going to be off the strength of the shield he gets. So, I mean, I'll bring it up already. You can put Blood Shield accessories on him, but the shield you get from Blood Shield's accessories is kind of crap, so he's not going to do much with that. It would make his A1 irresistible. It would make this one crit each time with just the Blood Shield accessory. So it's got a benefit there. But if you want the big damage, you're going to need somebody who brings in big shields to come with them. And then it shouldn't be impacted by the crit damage because the damage is based, I guess it gains a damage boost equal to the value of the shield. So you would still get the crit damage that he would have on him to do the attack, and then you would get a multiplier, a bump from the value of the shield too. So if you just want him to be a damage dealer, you've got this ability to put crit damage on him, not put a lot of crit rate, but put a big shield on him, and he could do some big damage. There's a problem in that, which is going to come up in the A3, by the way. We'll get to that. So removes all debuffs from all allies if the target's killed. So if he takes somebody out, boom, you got a cleanse. If he doesn't take somebody out, he's going to do a provoke. So I'll come back to Hydra. Remember this skill when we hit Hydra because there's a benefit there. And this effect cannot be resisted if this champ's under a shield buff. So once again, get a Blood Shield accessory or a shield buff, shield from an ally, and boom, he can do a provoke or a cleanse depending on if he kills somebody. And then on the A3, once again, a 3-turn cooldown, places ally protection, increased attack, and increased speed on a single ally for 2 turns, and then buffs that ally's or boosts that turn meter of the ally by 40%. That's interesting, but it's also conflicting. So it's an interesting skill to be just like a PvP speed booster. If he has good base speed, which we won't know until they release him, then he could boost with that A3, target your nuker on your team. Does the nuker need to be a lead? Who does he target? So on full auto, is that a problem? Do you have to manual it for him to target the right person on your team? I don't know. And if he puts an ally protection on that champ and you get hit by a strong enemy attacking that ally protect, and you built him with crit damage because you wanted to do this cool damage thing on the A2, Well, ally protection on your champ, if you have high crit damage and ally protection, the damage from mute that this champ will take from the ally protection is multiplied by the crit damage he has. So this kit's a little conflicting in that if you try to go with damage on that A2, the A3 doesn't really, I guess if you just don't use the A3 in content, then you wouldn't place the ally protection. You could just use them as a damage dealer. Guess that's a choice. It's a skill, but you are losing a piece of the kit. And we didn't read the last part. Instantly activates this skill at the end of an ally's turn if that ally has no buffs and their HP is lower than 100%. So I guess in a fight where you make sure they keep their buffs, you could do what I just described, where you just have them be a damage dealer. Otherwise, if you get your buffs stolen or they expire and they don't have buffs, being less than 100% turn meter's pretty easy to hit. He could put those buffs out there. So it's a tougher mechanic to fight. So you could just build him. Let's finish the passive. Each time an enemy hits an ally, that ally's next attack will deal 10% more damage for each hit they take. Stacks up to 100%. Damage increase resets after the ally deals damage. So he's got a damage booster on that passive. I don't see a cooldown on the passive. So basically your team has to get hit there. So that can be helpful in long fights. You know, something like Hydra we'll come back to. That's an interesting way to boost the damage on your attacker. Now, if your team has speed and your attacker keeps going, then you're going to burn through that benefit pretty quickly, but it's a benefit. And then strangely for this defense-based champ, he gets an HP in all battles aura by 40%. No, wait, Void ally HP battles him by 40%. So only Void people get HP, and he doesn't even want the HP relative to his defense. So for a Void legendary, I think that's a pretty crappy aura in my mind. There's plenty of champs out there who just have solid auras for all battles. You give the Void legendary only Void ally. Void allies get his aura. So if it's not a Void ally, they get no aura from him. I think for a Void legendary, that's a crappy aura. I mean, the percentage is good, but there's plenty of champs out there who give good auras without having those restrictions on them. I mean, look at the champ we just had, right? I mean, anyway. So overall, if I just think through some of the implications of that kit, I guess one thing I should probably hit on is what didn't we get? Where's my hound for the Packmaster, right? I mean, they said, what is it, a year ago now? You know, Shayak the Packmaster dude was gonna get a hound. No hound. Ogren tribes could have used some love. Orcs could use love. Shadowkin Reviver would be another nice thing to get. So another Barbarian, or Bannerlord, I don't know that was next up in the order of things that I needed to get from the game. So ways you could use them, as I mentioned, you do have a go first ability with that A3 just to try and target a nuke. You know, Arbiter's going to give him increased attack and give a speed boost. In this case, he gets the ally protection, the increased attack, the increased speed, and targets the nuker. Not the whole team, but the nuker. So, you know, it's interesting use of the A3 in PvP, I think, where you can try and boost somebody. Hydra has an interesting scenario with this guy. You've got to be careful how you build the team because you're putting 3 buffs on somebody. That will make that target most likely the mischief tank. So if you put those 3 buffs on somebody that doesn't have high resistance, you're getting mischief to go after that champ. So you've got to make sure you build your team right. But you could accelerate somebody's turns. And maybe you don't do the nuker even, but is that somebody that you just need to get more speed, more turns? You know, somebody's putting provokes out there or speeding up the boost of the team. You're giving them increased speed as well, you know. But if you want to make it increase attack on an attack-based champ, I don't know that I'd want to make them my mischief target. It's an interesting one where in the past we had these Wixwell, you know, big shield damage type builds with Yannicka. Does he have an ability to get the big shield thing going again? I don't know how too excited I'd be for that because it seems like they nerfed that whenever it comes out. But he's got an interesting scenario on Hydra where maybe you could use him as a damage dealer to be able to do that. So, you know, you just have to watch the buffs again. And then the other thing is for that shield to work, I guess whether it's PvP or in Hydra, that A3 has the instantly activates this skill at the end of an ally's turn if that ally has no buffs and their HP is lower than 100%. What I find a little odd by that is he's really benefits by shields, right? And the bigger the shield there is. I can't think of a shield of a champ that puts a big shield on a single target. I think most of the champs in this game, you know, call it Bragni or Mithrala, you know, Valkyrie, they're putting big shields on the whole team. So if you want him to have a shield from an ally and the other allies get it, then how does his A3 ever have the champ with no buffs and their HP's lower than 100%? I guess I'd have to put the shields on everybody. There is a relic that can remove buffs on a champ. They'd have to have the relic, or I need the enemy to single target strip that champ for them to get the buffs. So I'm a little confused how the whole kit hangs together in practice if I'm trying to use the A3 while also getting the benefits from the shields, unless I'm just doing the blood shield no resistance path and I'm not trying to build them for damage. So I feel like if you're trying to use the full kit and you want to build them for damage, but you also want to have the buffs go on and have them help the team, I don't know how you do that. So I almost feel like you're choosing. Do I want a damage build and I'm going for damage and I'm not going to use the A3 much? Or do I want to build them with a smaller shield, make them not resist, make them fast, give them some accuracy on that A1 as well, and put them in wave-based or PvP content. So maybe there's just different paths you can build them. You make them an A1, A3 PvP type champ or wave-based, or you put them in a Hydra team on that primarily using that A2 and you build them for damage. And you can't use the ally protect because you'll kill them. Just a couple different ways you could use them maybe. Maybe they just made them versatile. So a couple different ways I think about him. Chimera, I don't see putting him in a fight, particularly if you want that A3. I think you get ally protection stolen by somebody like Viper, and that's a nightmare. So I'm not a big fan of him in Chimera. So anyway, that's him. I think it's an interesting kit. I think it's unique. And I guess my philosophy in fusions is if I have a unique champ and a void legendary, I tend to go do those fusions. That being said, if you just got burned out by Tholan and you did the Titan path, and you're either mentally burned or resource burned, do I think that this guy is a newt that's going to go be a game-changing champ in your account? I don't think so. So if you decided to skip him, I can't blame you. I mean, it's a void legendary. Yeah, he's got a cool, unique kit we're probably going to find ways to use in the game. But there's plenty of champs in the game. You're going to get plenty of champs. So if you just said, look, I get it. It's cool. It's a void legendary. I just don't care. I can't blame you for that. Am I going to do it on both my accounts? I don't know. Fusions are easy for me, so I don't think my basis is really there. But it is a mixed fusion, so you got to get all the rare. You got to get fragments of all the rares, and then you got to turn those rares all into the epics. It's an exhaustive type of fusion because that means you can't miss stuff usually. So we'll see the schedule when it comes out and make the final call. But I guess that's my view of the fusion. Hopefully that was helpful. Sorry, it was probably longer than it was, but I think there's a lot of implications to talk about with him. So hopefully you found it helpful, and like and subscribe if you can. Appreciate it.